TOS TV, your digital first Pan-African network. I am Adesuwa Suyi, and this is Africa Now. Violence against women remains devastatingly pervasive and starts alarmingly young, shows new data from World Health Organization and partners. The analysis shows that in sub-Saharan Africa, 1 in every 3 women in marriages or other partnerships of men suffer abuse. The report, based on data from 2000 to 2018, estimates that in sub-Saharan Africa, 33% of women aged 15 to 49 have experienced physical or sexual violence, from their husbands or men defined as intimate partners. Only women in some Pacific nations and Southern Asia are in a worse position. In the category of violence against non-partners, Sub-Saharan Africa has a better record than high-income nations, with 6% of women aged 15 to 49 years reporting sexual violence during their lifetime. However, the report also warns that the stigma attached to sexual abuse often means it is underreported. Violence against women is endemic in every country and culture, causing harm to millions of women and their families, and has been exacerbated by the COVID-19 pandemic, said Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, WHO Director General.
WHO is launching a new report that represents the largest study ever conducted on the prevalence of violence against women. The results paint a horrifying picture. An estimated 736 million women, almost 1 in 3 women globally, have suffered intimate partner violence, sexual violence from a non-partner or both at least once in their lives. And almost 1 in 4 adolescent girls in a partnership have experienced physical and/or sexual violence from a partner or husband before their 19th birthday. Globally, women in lower middle income countries suffer disproportionately from violence, especially in Oceania, Sub-Saharan Africa, and South Asia. Violence against women is not just criminal. It has long-lasting implications for the physical, mental, sexual, and reproductive health of women.
But unlike COVID-19, violence against women cannot be stopped with a vaccine. We can only fight it with deep-rooted and sustained efforts by governments, communities, and individuals to change harmful attitudes, improve access to opportunities and services for women and girls, and foster healthy and mutually respectful relationships, the WHO chief says. While the numbers reveal already alarming high rates of violence against women and girls, they do not reflect the ongoing impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. To matters on politics, hundreds of students in Iraq movement sympathizers protested in Algiers on Tuesday in a fresh rally against the Algerian government. Demonstrators carrying banners reading "The regime is dead and it is not possible to resuscitate a corpse" marched through the capital's main streets to reach the Grande Poste, a traditional rallying point for supporters of the protest movement. The protesters took up the Iraq slogans for a free and democratic Algeria and a civil and non-military state. The essential demands of the students are the departure of the system, an independent justice, and a free press, so that it can transmit what the people say and not what the system says, said a poster. The protest movement still demands the dismantling of the system in place since independence in 1962, synonymous in the eyes with authoritarianism and corruption. In Libya, designated interim Prime Minister Abdulhamid Dbeibeh urged the long-divided parliament on Tuesday to back his proposed unity government as it prepared for a confidence vote expected on Wednesday. Dbeibeh's 35-member cabinet list distributed over the weekend after weeks of intense negotiating to keep all Libya's varied factions on board was still being amended on Tuesday, he said. Addressing Parliament, Dbeibeh decried the continued presence of mercenaries and other foreign forces in Libya and said his government's goal of unifying state institutions and holding an election planned for December 24, if realized, will be a big achievement. Parliament spokesman Abdullah Belhak said a final cabinet list will be presented to the parliament on Wednesday for a vote. Ivory Coast President Asmani Ouattara's party has won a majority in last weekend's legislative elections. Official results show the vote passed off peacefully, and for the first time in 10 years, it included all of the country's main political players, providing hope that Ivory Coast has begun to emerge from recent turbulence. Ouattara's RHDP won 137 of 254 contested seats, compared with 91 for opposition parties in Saturday's polls, according to results published on Tuesday by the country's Electoral Commission. The main opposition, PDCI, has, however, alleged electoral fraud. Tuesday's results showed the largest opposition grouping will be a coalition formed by PDCI members and Gbagbo's supporters, which won 50 seats. The turnout was 37.88%, the same in the last legislative elections in 2016. This is your digital first Pan-African network, TOS TV network. You're watching Africa Now. Stories on the Algerian independent war and migration crisis affecting the African continent coming up after the break. Do stay tuned. Welcome back. French President Emmanuel Macron has announced a decision to speed up the declassification of secret documents related to Algeria's 1954-62 War of Independence from France. The measures come as part of efforts to speed up access for researchers to the documents and as France aims to reconcile with its colonial past. Earlier this month, Macron publicly acknowledged that the Algerian independence Ali Boumediene had been tortured and assassinated by French forces. Under French laws, almost all archives of the French state, including on defense and security issues, should be made available to the public after 50 years, except information that could compromise some people's security. Yet, a complex and long request process was preventing researchers and academics from working on these archives. Macron also wants to honor Gisèle Halimi, a French feminist who supported Algeria's independence and denounced the use of torture by the French military during the war. He also plans to attend 3 commemoration ceremonies by next year, which will mark the 60th anniversary of the end of Algeria's war for independence. At least 39 migrants died when 2 boats sank off Tunisia on Tuesday as they tried to cross the Mediterranean to the Italian island of Lampedusa, the Tunisian defense minister said. The Coast Guard rescued 165 others, and searches for more survivors are still ongoing off the coast of Sfax. Ministry spokesman Mohamed Zekri said all the dead migrants were from sub-Saharan Africa. He added, the coastline near the Tunisian port city of Sfax has become a major departure point for people fleeing conflict and poverty in Africa and the Middle East and seeking a better life in Europe. In 2019, about 90 African migrants drowned when their boat capsized off the Tunisian coast after setting off for Europe from neighboring Libya. The number of Tunisian migrants landing on the Italian shores soared 5-fold to 13,000 in 2020, a human rights group said, attributing the rise to economic hardship in Tunisia. Developments in COVID-19 in Tunisia has it that the country received its first major delivery of coronavirus vaccine doses on Tuesday, almost a month later than expected, paving the way for the start of its inoculation campaign this week. Health Minister Fawzi Mehdi was on hand for the delivery of 30,000 Sputnik V doses in Tunis. The government had previously announced that it was expecting an initial more than 93,000 doses of Pfizer, BioNTech, and AstraZeneca Oxford jabs for mid-February, but delivery under the UN-led COVAX scheme was delayed. Health workers will be given priority for the Sputnik V jabs, which will be distributed among vaccination centers nationwide. Meanwhile, the 93,600 doses of Pfizer BioNTech vaccines are set to arrive in the coming days, Health Ministry official Ines Ayadi said on Tuesday. She said some 600,000 AstraZeneca vaccines should follow towards the end of the month. A military aircraft is expected to travel to China to pick up 100,000 doses of a Chinese vaccine that Beijing had pledged to donate to Tunisia, Ayadi added. A group of lawmakers in Ghana want to criminalize the promotion of LGBTQ rights, a move that comes a week after a community center for sexual minorities was shut down following strong opposition from politicians and church organizations. Parliamentarian Samuel Natir George from the opposition National Democratic Congress said he and 7 other members of the parliament hoped their private members' bill to ban LGBTQ advocacy would be passed before the parliamentary session ends on March 31st. Ghana has not prosecuted anyone for same-sex relations in years, but LGBT plus people face frequent abuse and decriminalization, including blackmail and attacks, human rights researchers say. Last week, actor Idris Elba and model Naomi Campbell joined 65 other British celebrities, designers, and politicians in calling for Ghana's president to engage with LGBT plus community. This is your Digital First Pan-African Network, TOS TV. You're still watching Africa Now. Up next is business. Do stay tuned. Thank you for staying tuned. And in business, South Africa's gross domestic product grew quarter on quarter in the next 3 months ending in December, led by expansion in manufacturing, construction and trade. But the economy recorded its biggest annual contraction in 7 decades in 2020. South Africa's economy, which was in recession before the COVID-19 pandemic, deteriorated sharply last year after the government imposed a strict lockdown to curb the spread of the coronavirus. Statistics South Africa on Tuesday said GDP expanded by 6.3% quarter on quarter on a seasonally adjusted and annualized basis in the fourth quarter, following a revised 67.3% expansion in the third quarter. However, the economy contracted 7% in the 2020 calendar year compared to 0.2% growth in 2019. This was the biggest drop in annual GDP since 1946, said Mike Mananela, head of economic statistics at Stats SA. On a quarter-by-quarter basis, manufacturing jumped 21.1%, construction was up 11.2%, and trade rose 9.8%. GDP contracted by 4.1% in the last quarter of 2020 on a year-on-year basis compared to a revised 6.2% contraction in the prior quarter. Africa-focused payments company Flutterwave could consider a New York listing, its chief executive officer and co-founder Olubenga Agbola said after it raised $170 million from investors to expand its customer base, pushing its valuation up to more than $1 billion. Founded in 2016 by Nigerians and headquartered in San Francisco, the company specializes in individual and consumer transfers. It is one of several fintech groups aiming to facilitate and capitalize on a booming African payments markets driven by increased mobile phone use and faster internet speeds. Flutterwave on Wednesday said it had secured $170 million from a leading group of international investors to expand its customer base in existing and international markets and to develop new products. That is Africa Now on your Digital First Pan-African News Network, TOS TV. For more updates, do visit our website at www.tostvnetwork.com. Also follow and like TOS TV Network on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. And remember to subscribe on YouTube. Do stay with us and enjoy more programs on TOS TV Network. I am Ade Sewell. See you. Good afternoon.